Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Dobbs-Savage. I'm Managing Director of Partnerships at WaterAid America, and I'll be presenting today the business case for WASH. Today, I'm going to speak with you about how companies can not only play a role in improving water and food security, but how their business can benefit from making improvements in water, sanitation, and hygiene access for workers in their supply chain. I am joined by Taryn Barclay, Senior Director, Strategic Partnerships and Stakeholder Engagement at Cargill, who will be sharing remarks following a presentation of applied research conducted by WaterAid from 2018 to 2022. As sustainability professionals, you may not be thinking about WASH. You are probably thinking about the environmental impact of agribusiness. But in addition to the environmental and replenishment context, there's a critical factor: your employees and their access, their productivity, and their health that must be taken into account. This infographic provides generalized overviews of basic field workplace settings, highlighting some of the business considerations for WASH provision and potential intervention ideas. These insights and considerations are drawn from WaterAid's experience of WASH implementation in field and workplace settings. Boosting business: why investing in water, sanitation, and hygiene pays off is the result of 4 years of research. I'm going to share an overview of the project, where and how the business case was tested, a bit more about the interventions that were carried out in tea estates in India and Kenya, the results of those interventions, and our call to action. So just a bit of background about the project. In July, WaterAid and Vivid Economics issued a report entitled Mission Critical: Invest in Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene for a Healthy and Green Economic Recovery. From this report, we learned that there are huge macroeconomic returns from investing in WASH related to economic development and resilience. However, there was no research about the massive returns to business when we invest in WASH in the supply chain on workplace performance, health, and well-being. Boosting business research was carried out over 4 years in 4 countries: Bangladesh, India, Kenya, and Tanzania, in 4 sectors: apparel, leather, tea, and agriculture, in 10 workplaces and communities. Today, I'm going to focus on the tea estates in India and Kenya. Here are the locations of the workplaces and communities, as well as the industries that were targeted. Leather tanneries in Uttar Pradesh, India, tea plantations in Darjeeling, India, and Kenya, smallholder farms in Tanzania, and ready-made garment factories in Bangladesh. Every project has had a positive outcome to report related to one or more of the following areas: absenteeism, punctuality, productivity, attrition, and access to medical care. Just a note that, of course, given the dates, this research was conducted during the COVID-19 pandemic and at its height, and for that reason, the return on investment calculation for the Tanzania smallholder farming community was not possible. So a little background on the context and need. In 2020, over 1 million tons of tea were exported worldwide, with India being the second largest exporter after China. Kenya is the 3rd largest producer of tea in the world. A large proportion of the world's tea is grown on vast commercial plantations. In India, there are more than 1,500 tea estates, and smallholder farmers play a significant role, producing 40% of the country's total tea output. India's tea industry employs more than 1.2 million people and 40% of those are women. In Darjeeling, where our research took place, up to 40% of the total resident population works on tea estates. Pluckers, as they are called, have a physically demanding job. They pick leaves, fertilize, weed, and prune the plants, and are responsible for maintaining the grounds. In the tea estates, we saw that overall there was a lack of water and sanitation infrastructure and poor hygiene behaviors, which made employees' working conditions and living standards challenging. In the table, you can see that the data was collected from both workplaces and the communities. The most striking fact is that the workplace, in this case the picking areas, had no drinking water points. So these were the WASH baseline data points from India. As for Kenya, it is the third largest producer of tea in the world. 60% of Kenya's tea is produced by small-scale farmers. The remaining 40% by large privately owned tea estates managed by multinationals like Ekaterra, formerly part of Unilever. Data collected over a 5-year period from the Tea Estate Clinic showed a number of illnesses, including upper respiratory tract infections as the most common medical complaint, followed by hypertension, arthritis, diarrhea, skin conditions, eye conditions, urinary tract infections, diabetes, and asthma. The on-site nurse indicated these were linked to climatic conditions, high altitude working, and poor hand hygiene. Based on the WASH baseline studies conducted, we plan for a range of interventions in the Twinings and Ekaterra tea estates. The interventions in India were more holistic in that they targeted water supply, sanitation, and hygiene, whereas in Kenya, the focus was mainly driven by the baseline health data collected and the need for hand washing stations and soap. Here is a summary of the results from the tea sector in India and Kenya, including the business benefits aggregated across the 3 tea estates. All benefits listed here are attributed to the water, sanitation, hygiene programming interventions. Highlighting here that workplace medical incidents fell. The clinics on the tea estates in India saw a 5% drop, and the tea estate in Kenya saw a 22% decrease. Productivity increase. The tea estates in India saw a 27% boost in production after the intervention. We have a number of stories and case studies from each pilot project that I will share at the end of this presentation. So what was the return on investment? Where possible, a financial return on investment for the business was calculated, along with projections for investment costs and benefits over a 10-year period. In this chart, we have data aggregated. In the first column, you see the project ROI, the second projected ROI, and at the bottom, overall average ROI for the tea estates. In particular, there were fantastic results from the Ekaterra tea estate. The project ROI for every dollar invested, $5 was returned. For the projected ROI, for every dollar invested, $15 was returned. Nagra Farm had less impressive results, largely due to the terrain and the high capital expenditure costs. The dollar per input for WASH interventions was high in that area. Here is a short video from Nagra Farm Tea Estate in Darjeeling, India, a supplier to Twinings.
नमस्कार, मेरो नाम चाहिँ सिद्धार्थ राई। म नागिर फार्म टी गार्डन निवासी है, क्लब गाउँमा बस्छु र म चाहिँ टी गार्डन वर्कर छु सिन्स 2009। अन्त हामी त्यसको लागि चाहिँ हामी बिहान छिटो उठेर हैन, हामी रेगुलरली 5 AM मा चाहिँ हामी उठ्छौँ। उठेर चाहिँ फर्स्ट अफ अल हाम्रो ड्युटी चाहिँ के हुन्छ भने पानी कलेक्ट गर्नु हैन, पानी कलेक्ट गर्नुपर्छ। त्यो चाहिँ अलिकति सोर्स अलिकति टाढै छ, त्यहाँबाट ल्याउनु है टाइम लाग्छ। अन्त एउटा सोर्सदेखि अर्को सोर्स हामी जानुपर्छ। त्यहाँबाट चाहिँ हामीलाई हाम्रो गाउँ क्लब गाउँ डाँडा गाउँलाई पानी प्रोभाइड गरिदिनु भएको छ। पानी प्रोभाइड गरिदिनु भएको छ थ्रु मोटर। हाम्रो यही तलपट्टि छ सोर्स चाहिँ। काममा पनि अलिक टाइममा छिटो पुग्छ र एफोर्ट कम्ती लाग्छ। यही भन्न चाहन्छु कि अब एनजिओले हैन, एनजिओले त्यत्रो गरिदिनु भयो। थ्याङ्क यू सो मच है एनजिओलाई पनि, हामी सम्पूर्ण गाउँवासीलाई नै हो।
Reflecting on the research, there are a few lessons learned we'd like to highlight. Excuse me. Workplaces are all different, which requires separate assessments and wash management approaches. And holistic wash is key. It's not enough to just do hand washing or just do water. You need all three to reap the benefits. It's critical to not only look at the workplace where the business operates, but also the community where workers live to ensure that they have access to water, sanitation, and hygiene, both where they work and where their homes are. And then return on investment is not everything. Providing an ROI can bolster the business case presented to internal financial teams for increased wash commitments, but the broader socioeconomic benefits for employees and their communities will also support companies and suppliers' broader sustainability commitments. In conclusion, there was clear evidence of positive business benefits. There is a range in return on investment results, but with the right workplace context, we're confident now and have the data to show that WASH brings financial benefits. So start investing in WASH in your business. There is a ripple effect beyond your bottom line. Companies that are new to this space may be wondering, what can we do or where do we start? Here are a few suggestions to get you started. Lead by example and champion the integration of WASH into your company's corporate water stewardship strategy. Assess WASH needs at the local level to understand the shared potential water challenges, risks, impacts, and opportunities at the local site. Those of you familiar with the Alliance for Water Stewardship steps, this would be step 1. 3, develop a local level WASH stewardship plan, including targets. AWS step 2. 4, engage with a third-party provider to support practical action and implementation of if in-house resources do not exist. And 5, engage with global initiatives such as Wash for Work, Global Agribusiness Alliance, or others working on agriculture or WASH issues to learn from their experience. Here are just some acknowledgements. And feel free to click on the QR code here for a link to the report and other resources that were generated from this research. For the last 7 years, we have been presenting at various water conferences, anecdotal, qualitative evidence of business benefits. Now we have hard quantitative data to prove financial benefits of WASH investment for business. This pilot research is a big step forward in quantifying WASH benefits. We have great evidence of all the reasons why WASH is good to do, and now we have the data to prove it. So our call to action is to read the reports. You can click on the QR code, disseminate across your networks, and start investing in WASH, which can ultimately boost your business. I'll now hand over to Taryn Barclay, who will be sharing a bit about their program, Cargill Currents.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think I see a couple of familiar faces from the session yesterday, but maybe just to give you a little bit of context before I go specifically into our WASH programming, just to let you know that Cargill is a global agricultural, food and industrial company. We operate in 70 countries around the world with 155,000 employees. Cargill's global purpose is to nourish the world in a safe, responsible and sustainable way. And every day we're connecting farmers with markets, customers with ingredients, and people and animals with the food and feed they need to thrive. We're working across from a sustainability perspective in three priority areas: our climate, land and water, and people, which encompasses our approach to farmer livelihoods and human rights. Each of these areas has a clearly defined approach to advance progress against our sustainability priorities. And we know that water is a critical resource, and we have an important leadership role to play in how we think about conserving and protecting these precious resources. Our water strategy prioritizes action where it's needed most, based on the specific water challenges faced by those communities. And I think that's an important approach that Cargill has taken, where we have looked beyond just our operational footprint, but to the communities and the supply chains where we can have the greatest impact in supporting conservation and management of water resources. We have clear goals across our water stewardship approach. We are improving water quality and obviously improving water where there's water stress issues. And then it comes to our community engagement and how we think about improving access to safe drinking water and sanitation. And I think Sarah was right in thinking about, when we think about access to water, it isn't just about providing that clean water. It is coupled with thinking about the broader sanitation situation as well. We have a commitment to enabling improved access to safe drinking water and sanitation for 500,000 people in our priority communities by 2030. And the approach that we take really thinks about how can we bring all stakeholders together. So farmers, ranchers, community members, NGOs, to really find and scale those solutions. And that was one of the reasons why we launched Cargill Currents, which was an initiative we launched in 2021, a 3-year, $3 million community water initiative to reach up to 150,000 people across some key countries. And the purpose is to improve that access to safe drinking water and sanitation and really enhance water security for those communities. And when we think about Cargill Currents, we work very closely with an organization called the Global Water Challenge, who's really helping us to identify, who are those community partners that we can engage with to really understand what are the specific needs of those targeted communities, because that speaks to our broader approach that we take across all of our water areas. Is we want to take a contextual local water approach to understand what are those place-based needs and critical water issues, and how can we develop solutions and programs to help address them. So Cargill Currents enables us to really think about it from a WASH perspective. We are also, Sarah mentioned the WASH for Work. We actually are part of that business declaration that we signed up to at COP last year. And we are a member of the CEO Water Mandate. So really thinking about how we can have an all-encompassing approach to water. One of the partnerships as well that I manage is our global collaboration with CARE. And over the last 2 phases, we've engaged in a WASH initiative in Indonesia. And in the last 3 years, we've worked in 10 elementary schools, reaching over 17,000 people. And to the point about seeing that, like, what are the outcomes? I mean, not only have schools now 100% functioning toilet and hand washing facilities, but hand washing rates have increased. And as a direct result, school absenteeism has reduced. So it is thinking through what are all of those, different outcomes that you're trying to address. We also have brought in training and education around nutrition, as well as good sanitation and hygiene, because these things are so interconnected. And we want to take a holistic approach to how we're thinking about engaging in communities where we operate. So that's a little bit of information around some of the initiatives and programs that we're working on. We know that reliable access to clean water and sanitation is really essential for communities. We work in a lot of rural agricultural communities around the world, and we know that often that lack of access to water and sanitation is a critical issue. And if we can bring in some key interventions to supporting that, we can really help address a lot of other different things within those communities. And something that we try to do as well is it's also about bringing those communities sort of alongside. Like we'll go and understand what are those critical issues, but how can the community also be engaged in co-creating and designing some of those solutions. So one of the ways that we also think about it is, if we put in those interventions in those facilities, we also think about how can we develop community wash committees? How can the community themselves determine like what are the ongoing interventions and how do they maintain these programs that are put in place? So really trying to think about it from both a long-term perspective, understanding the local context and the challenges facing those communities, and really co-creating and co-designing those interventions that can really bring that positive impact that we're trying to bring, but also build that long-term sustainability. So that's some of the approaches that we're taking from a WASH perspective. And certainly happy to answer any questions you might have. I know I'm the only thing standing between you and lunch right now, and I'm always very conscious of that. And obviously, I'm a bit of a one woman band up here, and Sarah unfortunately wouldn't be able to answer any specific questions, but I am happy to take a couple.
Quick question. So cargo is already established all over the world, and this is some of their companies that are carrying out these businesses. Is that correct? Or are you just Cargill is intervening in someone else's private business to make it more effective and better for the world? So does Cargill own those companies that you're currently helping?
So we think about it from working in the communities that are connected to our business. So it's communities where we have a connection to our supply chain, to our operational footprint, and how we can bring in different partners or stakeholders to support program implementation. Well, this is a WaterAid study that was independent of us. That was their own study. So we are working in communities that are part of our own business, but connected to our business. So maybe communities next to our operating facility or part of our supply chains.
So this took until 2021 to institute?
No, we've been working on this for quite some time. It was just specific reference to a Cargill Currents program. I would say that Cargill Currents is unique in the fact that we probably launched a program that was very specific to WASH. But for many years before that, we've been integrating WASH into existing programming. So our work with CARE, for example, I mean, we've worked with them for many decades and have looked to integrate WASH where that's a critical challenge in those communities. So yes, it's a newer program that's very specific to WASH, but certainly this is an intervention we've been working on for a long time.
It's not often, first of all, thank you for what you do. And for the room, sometimes there's plenty of water, but it's just a lack of water portability. And Cargill coming in there and giving them the opportunity to practice hygiene exponentially changes the world. It takes the burden off the shoulders of women and children that port 200 hours worth of water each and every day. So thank you for that. And just the reduction in fatalities by simply washing your hands and hygiene. So any chance that you have when you have someone that's a global leader like Cargill, or even at a smaller scale, that goes out there and simply does the right thing for the obvious reasons is a good thing.
But my question really was, why hasn't this been done a long time ago since?
It's insane that it doesn't. It should be
That
literally
was the rest of my question.
Cargill's
Yeah.
footprint should be duplicated elsewhere.
Yes.
And that's the frustration, you know? Oh, in other words, I hear you.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Sorry. Oh, sure. You go, yeah, and then
Okay.
thank you. Along with the sanitation, do you build the trees, like places?
Yes. Yes, so we will put in if there's needed infrastructure. So yes, I mean the program in Indonesia, we have physically built the latrine infrastructure as well as those hand washing stations. So yes, it depends if that is something that's needed, which often in the case of many communities, the lack of infrastructure is a challenge. So how can we help improve that? And then that's why we build the sort of infrastructure around to maintain those facilities and support that ongoing hygiene education. So in Nebraska, we do have some programs that are more, I guess, working directly with farmers in the state to help improve whether it's soil health practices. We had was called the Nebraska Irrigation Project that concluded, I think, a year or two ago. That was actually about helping farmers access better technologies to manage water, whether it was things like water sensors, better measurement of water to really be able to track. So there's a number of programs taking place, but the ones in the US, I would say actually we have a lot of kind of very local water initiatives, which might be improving, a watershed or working directly with farmers or improving wetland management. There's a number of different initiatives happening in the US, but in Nebraska, actually very farmer-facing programs that we've worked on. Okay, thank you very much.